Happy Saturday, everybody. Josh here with On the Wrong Lead. Another episode of Drank and Champagne, joined as always by Champagne, Mr. Andrew Champagne. Andrew, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing okay. It's been a very busy week on a couple of different levels. Very happy we were able to get something together for you this week. If this is your first time listening or watching this show, first of all, welcome. Thank you very much for spending some time with us on what's going to be a very busy Saturday for a lot of people. It is Super Bowl Eve, of course. So hopefully you're getting your parties ready. Hopefully you're getting your bets ready if you're out there and into that sort of thing. And if you're not into that sort of thing, why are you here? At any rate, we're very happy to have you here. If you're watching this on YouTube, go down below, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out, and it really helps us give you more of this type of content, which seems like some people really like, so we're going to keep doing that.
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking. So if you watch our content, listen to our content, or you're going to see the feed blow up today because I also recorded an episode of You've Got to Be Shot-Tinning Me with
You've got to be shot-tinning
me with Matt Carlson, and I had mentioned to him that one of our listeners the last couple of weeks has messaged me about very specific things that we've talked about in the show. Like, he showed me a beer he brewed because we talked about home brewing one time. He showed me a saxophonist he saw at Hollywood Beach because we had mentioned the saxophone solo that is in Drank and Champagne. So I thought it was pretty funny that there is at least one person that listens to us and listens intently enough that I get notes. So I appreciate that. I'm gonna clap for our friend Russ. He got shouted out on both things here, but yeah. So this week was kind of crazy. With me, I had some workshop. Our normal time of record. I had a happy hour thing going, and it was just we couldn't get a time to go, so we're recording this a little bit late, but. I wanted to touch on two things. Obviously, Sam F. Davis, we got a Derby prep coming up, but before we get to that, there's just, something that's been looming over everybody, any type of gambler. It's the Super Bowl. And Andrew, I know during your day job involves covering all kinds of gambling news and. I guess just the gambling industry. Sports betting is obviously a very, very big part of that right now, with obviously the recent legalization across the U.S. and
across most of the U.S.
Well, across the U.S. as in we got a lot of states, but yeah, I actually saw something today, and maybe you know a little bit more about this, but I think the governor of Texas came out and basically said something like, "We got to do something about this offshore betting," which I'm guessing is hinting towards possible legalization in Texas. But Andrew, as you know, we both love horse racing. We do know the state of Texas has some issues that they might need to work through.
Sorry, C.J. Johnson.
But yeah, so with the Super Bowl coming around, I think. Andrew, I don't want to say you're the kind of guy who I think will take a position, right? You'll take a position. You'll see it. You'll see a line, and you'll take the the minus 105, minus 110, right? And I know for some people, that doesn't really. It doesn't get the juices going for them, So I know a lot of people now are really big into the same game parlays, player props. First, honestly, my favorite prop to play is first player to score a touchdown, which is completely volatile, right? I'm sure I'm completely recreational, right? So maybe I'll compare some books and pick the best line, but. What I guess with this coming up, Like, is there like are you very feeling very strongly one way or the other on the line? I think the latest I saw, you can get -2. I think right now on the 49ers, but obviously you have to shop around a little bit to see what kind of odds you're getting. So
Yeah, and I got to tell you, first and foremost, regardless of what happens in the Super Bowl, from a societal standpoint, I win. And here's why. I am in the Northern California Bay Area. If the San Francisco 49ers win a Super Bowl, I get a Super Bowl parade and a week long party. If the Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl, a whole bunch of bad people who get triggered by the mere sight of Taylor Swift lose their freaking minds. Either way, I win, Josh. So I'm thoroughly okay with that. In fact, I am not going to do what a lot of people are doing and going off of the spread, in part because it feels like every expert I'm seeing is taking the Chiefs +2. And I'm sort of hearing this little voice in the back of my head saying, it's a trap, it's a trap, it's a trap. I'm going to take the stance that both defenses are pretty darn good. I believe as we record this on Friday night, most totals are around 47 and a half. You might be able to get a 48 somewhere. If you can get under 48 somewhere, I think that might be the play. Brock Purdy, it was written about by somebody much, much, much smarter than me. I believe it was Mina Kimes who tweeted a link out to that. And by the way, if you're a football fan and you're not following Mina Kimes, you're doing it wrong. She's incredibly intelligent and does things that a lot of people just will not touch. She's awesome. The Niners have had trouble with teams that have some sort of interior pass rush. The Chiefs have that. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have a lot in the way of wide receiver help. Rashee Rice has come out and been pretty good. If he's your number 2 guy, I like your offense. I don't think he's a number 1 guy. Travis Kelce, we know how good he is. We know he's going to be a factor in the offense. But do you really trust Marquez Valdez-Scantling? Do you really trust Tony? No. I think this is a 24-17 game. That's 41 points. That's the under right there. So if I was to lean any particular direction, I say take the under.
yeah, and I was trying my best to be nice, not call you a square. So, but
Hey,
no,
sometimes it's hip to be square.
it's I think with sports betting, I think with the Super Bowl it's a little bit different because it's one game, and it's one game and it's I think the props and the other stuff is kind of the fun of it, right? Obviously, we could get into more of a serious sports betting conversation about it, but
We might
like I said,
actually get more consistent listeners that way if we did that.
probably, but I'm not in any way, shape, or form. I don't consider myself sharp at all when it comes to
I
sports
don't
betting.
either. And I think a lot of people out there who are educated and informed realize they're not necessarily sharps. Speaking of sharps, quick tangent. If you have not read Billy Walters' autobiography, pick it up. It's very, very good. It's a fairly quick read. I picked that up at Barnes & Noble a couple of months ago. Cannot recommend it highly enough if you are into sports betting, into gambling at all whatsoever, or you just want to hear how somebody very intelligent has conducted business throughout his life. It's a good book.
Yeah, I'm still working my way through the Ed Miller and Matthew Davidow book, The Logic of Sports Betting,
Okay.
which a lot of people kind of consider that to be like, I don't know, the Bible of
Sure.
sports betting and understanding how books and stuff work.
Yep.
So, I'm hoping I'm dabbling more. Obviously, this is a horse racing focused podcast, we'll say. But we talk sports betting, we talk Vegas, we talk gambling in general. But yeah, it's tough with the Super Bowl being the one game. I mean, I'll probably toss in. Everybody's going to have a promo, and I'll toss in some $10 parlay that has got no shot of hitting. Just to have a little bit of action on the game. But yeah, I do as as a bettor, I do find it hard to be like, all right, I'm just going to put 100 to win on the spread, right, and take your minus 105, or put 105 or 110 or whatever to win the 100, or hey, I'll take the money line and take plus 105, right, which is I think right around what you'll get the Chiefs right now, which is where I'm leaning. I was hoping I'd get closer to like plus 125 to, but apparently I think like you said, I think the books haven't really moved on it. It seems like it's been around. The line's been around 2 the entire time. Even when I looked early, I think it was close to that. So, but I think something like March Madness, because there is a plethora of games happening very rapidly, or just even like for me, even more importantly, like regular season football, where there's 6 games going on and you could pick 3 of them, it's a little bit different, right? Then I feel a little bit. I don't know. It's more exciting to me, when you got multiple things going on and things like that. And sometimes with the Super Bowl, it's I don't know, like just I guess betting the spread on just one very singular game. I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. But I know, it's more of a long game, right? Um, but my wife, her favorite bet, she likes to bet the coin toss. So every year we put a bet on the coin toss. I think she's 2 for 2 since we've been legal here in Illinois. But I'll have to double check. We'll see if we'll be betting on that. But anything else like so I know you've been busy with other stuff. Anything else in the world of gambling we need to be looking out for?
I got to write about Taylor Swift this past week, Josh. That's very exciting,
Yeah.
right? One quick public service announcement in that vein that I want to make sure I make. If you find a sports book that is offering Taylor Swift based prop bets, know that you are on an offshore site. Offshore sites do not offer the same protections that legal regulated sports books do. Legal regulated sports books, unless you're in Canada, cannot offer bets like, will Travis Kelce propose after the game? What will Taylor Swift be wearing? Etc. Be very careful if and when you wind up coming across those sites. Don't be stupid. Seriously, there's so much money going around right now. Be smart with yours.
All right. After that public service announcement, let's move on to the second part of our show here. We're going to be talking about the Sam F. Davis and Andrew. You had 2 very. You came in right. You were running a little bit late. You had a big dinner plans for Lunar New Year, and so I was coming to the point. Oh, so you had this big, right? You had this big to do about your dinner, and you talk about your dinner, and then you then said, "I don't like the favorite." So, and I actually don't remember. I think the order might have been flipped. I think you came in and immediately said, "I don't like the favorite." By the way, sorry I was late, on this dinner, but we're coming in here to Sam F. Davis, and our favorite here is 3-1, which is a pretty flat favorite here. The 9 change of command, and you hate him. You don't like him. Talk to me.
I hate him at the likely price for a couple of different reasons. Number 9 change of command comes in after winning against Optional Claiming Company at Gulfstream Park. That time is not a blowaway time. Mile and a 16th and 144 and 2. I see a horse that, yes, showed a fair amount of fight, but I see a horse that did that getting Lasix for the first time, which definitely moves horses forward. I see a horse that needs to be forwardly placed. And Josh, as you scrolled through the past performances, I saw a lot of E8s, a lot of EP8s. There's a lot of early speed signed on in this particular race. So I think Change of Command is in a spot that doesn't necessarily suit what he wants to do. If he proves that he can rate and pass other horses late, that's something new, and he's a legitimate horse. But I can't bet that horse as the favorite in this spot when I think there are a couple of other more appealing options at significantly bigger prices. If Change of Command wins, am I going to be thoroughly shocked based on his ability? Not really. But this horse, I think, ought to be 5-1 or 6-1. He's going to be half that price. And for that reason, I can't bet him.
Yeah, I can't bet him because I see the word command and I'm getting like flashbacks to a horse named Command Performance that
Oh, the lifetime maiden that always took money. Yeah.
no, just joking, but yeah, I kind of had a pretty similar view to this race as you did. I saw all the speed signed on to this, and I'm very interested in a horse that is a bit of a price in this spot. I think people seeing the speed, I think their eyes might move to like the 6, a Gate Road, and this is a horse that is trying dirt for the second time. The first time was washed off at Saratoga, but obviously dirt was not the plan for this horse because they went and they've been having this horse on the turf every single time, and they've been going, a mile and 16th on the turf. Obviously, this is a very expensive purchase. Rapoli owns this, along with Saint Elias Stables, and maybe they think they have something here. It just seems weird. Todd doesn't seem like a guy to try this horse 5 times on a turf and then all of a sudden decide this is a dirt horse. So I don't know if this is like let's see what happens kind of move. But the guy from who acted in To Kill a Mockingbird said, never take a short price on a horse doing something for the first time. Andrew,
For those of you out there
you visibly grimaced. Oh my
It's
goodness.
Harvey Peck. Harvey Peck, not Gregory Peck. Harvey Peck, a legend of the turf. The best to ever do what we're trying to do. And anybody that is out there that has followed New York racing at all whatsoever over the last 40 years, including the people who do it now, will agree with me. Best to ever do it.
I hope people realize that that's a bit from me and don't think that I really think that
I
that
don't
Gregory
think you
Peck.
know who Harvey Peck is.
I mean, I
You
don't know.
who
I don't know.
is prior to 2018.
I don't know who Harvey Peck is, but I do know who Gregory Peck is. So I would hope at least somebody would assume that much. But my eyes went to this 4-horse Crazy Mason. Gregory Sacco trained. Michael Sanchez stays aboard here. And if you kind of look at this horse's progression on Brisnet, you kind of got this nice upward trend. You got this, this 1 mile race at Monmouth. I don't know what happened there. It looked like he was bumped at the start, but you see a pretty decent progression, getting better and better and better. And then you see the last race that he won, and they went a mile and 40 yards. And you see a real slow figure, but you see that he won that race. And, maybe you start to question, like, well, okay, he won a slow race, big deal. Then you look at the fractions. They went 26-1 and then 51-4. I mean, going at Tampa, I feel like Tampa tends to be forwardly placed a bit. But the fact that this horse, on just an absolute glacial pace, was able to kind of show a little bit of versatility, sit off, and came back with a very, very nice late pace figure here of 108. And he's got a couple others that are in the 90s. And I really just think that with all the speed signed up here, I think this is your best closer. Maybe the 6 at Gate Road, maybe, he takes to the dirt and he is a dirt horse and he shows that same kick that he did on the turf at 7-2, gonna be your second choice. But I think Crazy Mason is going to be, a mid price. It's going to be probably double digits, if not even more. And I think he's definitely in here with a shot. Like you kind of got to, like I said, you're not really tossing the last race, but you're excusing the figure that might have come back on the last race because of just the insanity that was that very, very slow pace. So I like the four crazy Mason here to come from off the pace and maybe sneak a nice double digit win here.
I can't fault you for going for a big price closer in this spot. My hesitation with Crazy Mason is I just think he's a one turn horse. That figure to the second start of his career at Saratoga, that was a very good race going 5.5 furlongs. The figure two back, in which he earned a 90 Briz speed figure, which is a very good figure that would make him competitive in here, that was going 6 furlongs. I understand that he ran fairly well last time out, but he was 3-5 that day. That's a race he was supposed to win on ability alone. I understand where you're going in there, but I think there are better value propositions. I think that horse could well clunk up for third or fourth, but I'm not going to be too enthusiastic about Crazy Mason on top. The horse that I like on top is actually the one that breaks right to Crazy Mason's outside. That's horse number 5, No More Time. No More Time is trained by Jose D'Angelo, who's a 20 some odd percent trainer, a very high percentage barn. Paco Lopez signs on. And I thought this horse had a couple of excuses last time out in the Mucho Macho Man, which came back pretty good. That day's runner up came right back to win a stakes race on the turf. That day's winner came back to run in the Holy Bull. Had a very strange running pattern that Josh, you usually gravitate to. I believe you call it the Z pattern. The horse did not break well. It says rank hopped at the start, was last of 6, which is not where this horse wants to be. I don't think he's a need the lead horse, but I do think he wants to be more forwardly placed. They moved this horse fairly early. This horse went from last 5 lengths back to within a length going around the turn. Jose Ortiz kept himself pretty busy on that one, and that horse ran out of gas. This was also that horse's first start in a little over 2 months, first start against winners. I've got no problem excusing that race to a certain extent. Now, buyer beware. I don't think we're going to get 10-1. I think this horse is going to come down. I think we're going to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 6-1, 7-1. But I do think he is an overlay in this kind of field. He's got tactical speed, but he showed in that second start that he does not need the lead in order to run well. He stalked early. He pounced around the turn. He had plenty left. The pedigree tells me that 2 turns may not be a problem. He's by not this time out of a Speightstown mare, so there is some stamina there to suggest that he could improve going 2 turns. I love the recent work at Palm Meadows, fastest of 13 at that distance on that particular day. There are a couple of other very fast works in his work tab too. So No More Time to me is an A. You mentioned Agate Road. One thing to keep in mind about his debut, it was off the turf going a mile at the Wilson Chute route. Some horses really don't like it. Some horses really like it. That's a tough distance for a first-time starter to debut at. It's not 1 turn. It's not 2 turns. It's a very strange distance. Also, first-time starters are not expected to close at first asking. This one did. I give Agate Road a lot of credit. I think that while turf might be his best game, there is plenty of speed in here to set up for what he wants to do. I would not be at all surprised if Agate Road is the one they have to hold off late. There's another horse in here, though, that I want to at least talk about for just a little bit, and that is horse number 10, West Saratoga. West Saratoga is another horse that's a middle price on the morning line that I think is going to get bet down. He's 8-1 on the morning line. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the second or third choice come post time because he has races from his 2-year-old season that are very, very good. If you look at those races at Ellis Park and Churchill Downs, one of those races was a win in the Grade 3 Iroquois, where I thought he ran a pretty darn good race, being not all that far off of a very, very fast early pace. If you look at those fractions, you see 22-1, 44-3. He's fourth, 6 lengths off the pace, which, no, it's not right on the pace, but it's not like he's dead last 15 lengths off of a speed duel up front. He's not getting the Senor Buscador trip where he's way, way, way back and waiting as the other horses come back to him. He was at least within range most of the way around the racetrack. Last time out in the Pasco here at Tampa, he ran into a freakish sprinter by the name of Bookham Dano. I am not holding that against him at all, especially since that was his first race in a little over 3 months. It's safe to assume, by the way, that in the race 2 back, the Breeders' Futurity, something went wrong because we didn't see him after that for another 3 months. I think he improves with a little more distance. By Exaggerator, a Preakness winner, so 2 turns not a problem there, out of an Uncle Mo mare, so there's definitely some stamina potential there. And his races as a 2-year-old would probably be good enough to put him right there. I'm not crazy about the post position, but I do think he has enough tactical speed to be able to work out a trip from there. For me, those are the 3 horses that I am going to be primarily using in a lot of the multi-race exotics, 5, 6, and 10, and let's make the 5 the top pick. 10-1 on the morning line. I don't think they're going to get that price, but I also think that horse is not going to go favored. And hey, I don't think anybody ever complained about a $15 winner.
Yeah, and I will say that kind of looking at West Saratoga a little bit closer now that you kind of brought him up. Well, one thing I do really like about that Iroquois is you see on the Brisnet I have up here, you kind of see these pace figures. You see the 1C, 2C. That's kind of like a coefficient on what if they think the pace was fast or slow for the distance. And the plus sign means they think this is a fast pace, which I think is what we're going to get here. So it's kind of like one of those things. You kind of match up the pace scenarios that he's seen before, and hey, that happens to be the best race that he's run is when they went fast in front of him, and I think that he's going to get that same setup here. And I, I think even coming from Churchill, he didn't run that bad last time out in the Pasco. So he's got to run over the surface at least. So, I know sometimes we talk about these Churchill horses that, their form not carrying all the time. But I don't know. I think that this is an interesting one at a little bit of a price as well. Just trying to avoid those 2 short price favorites.
Yeah, and with West Saratoga, again, you're getting a horse that has tactical speed. You're not getting a closer that needs a lot to go right. If they start backing up coming around the far turn, West Saratoga may very well be your leader turning for home. The question at that point is, what does he have left? And in the Iroquois, I think he showed an ability to be able to loosely stalk a pretty fast pace and have something left late. That was a pretty good field, by the way. That day's 3rd place finisher, Liberal Arts, I think is a pretty solid racehorse. He just ran 3rd in the Derby Prep at Oaklawn and had a sneaky trip in that race. He was not getting to Mystic Dan, who was a runaway winner, but I think Liberal Arts was the 2nd best horse on that particular occasion and is a horse that is worth watching as we move forward to the first Saturday in May. But again, 5 is my top pick. I'll also use the 6 and the 10 a little bit as well. If the 9 winds up winning, I'm not going to be surprised, but at that price, I just can't use them.
Yeah. Anything else that you looked at on Saturday? Any track, anything that stuck out to you?
Tampa's card to me sticks out. There's a lot of stakes races, a lot of great action there. Shout out to some really good people at Tampa Bay Downs. Jason Beam, we all know how passionate he is about the game of racing and the things that he's done to be able to grow the game and give people a platform that need it. Ren Carruthers, who does a lot of their between races stuff. I had the privilege of working with her at TVG for quite a while. She's absolutely fantastic. So really looking forward to a good day of racing at Tampa Bay Downs. Also, really looking forward to something that's going to be coming out next week. I will be rejoining the folks over at the Pollock Report for the annual Derby Bubble feature, where we'll be counting down my top 23-year-olds. And hopefully that picture gets a little bit clearer between now and 2.5 months from now, because I got to tell you, we're going to be going pretty deep with all of the Baffert horses that would be pretty major contenders on the road to the Kentucky Derby that are not eligible to accrue points.
Yeah, it's what a crazy time. I mean,
That's an
will
understatement. Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be an interesting Triple Crown, and it's kind of funny because how do I put this? I don't necessarily like what Bob is doing. And we could, I mean, we could talk a bunch about, I think I think there's a lot of gray in kind of what's going on, but between Bob and Churchill, I can see where, he served his time. Why are they extending it versus, hey, they suspended him. So there's a lot of back and forth. I think there's a lot of sides to the story. I'm not gonna do the good people on both sides thing, but I'm just saying it's more complex than they're right, they're wrong.
You used a very interesting word right there in the word complex. And that's something that I think gets lost in a lot of situations like this, where the tribalistic tendencies of horse racing Twitter tend to come out. Either Bob Baffert is the greatest trainer of all time and he's hay oats and water, or he's the dirtiest player in the game and we need to get rid of him now. Oftentimes, in situations like that, the answer is in the middle. And Josh, it's almost like you knew I was going to do this because I did write about this a couple of days ago. It's up on my website, andrewchampagne.com. And the answer is somewhere in the middle. I am not crazy about the way Churchill Downs extended a ban as someone was serving a ban when there were no additional infractions other than an embarrassing court case on a lot of different levels. And look, we're not lawyers. I don't think you want us to be lawyers. We're not going to go there. But anyone saying, oh, the Kentucky Derby has an asterisk now, I'm not going to bet it. We know you are. We know you are. Just stop it. Stop with that sort of stance where all of a sudden the Kentucky Derby means less than one trainer. Owners had chances to move those horses like Nisos, horses like Muth, who, if the Kentucky Derby was run this weekend, would probably be your favorite and maybe the third choice. The owners decided not to do that. I'm not going to second guess the owners that pay the bills. They trust Bob Baffert. They want those horses in Bob Baffert's barn. Okay. But while I'm not going to vilify them, I'm also not going to treat them as victims either, because there was a path that was laid out. They could have transferred those horses to barns like Tim Yakteen's, Rudy Brisset's, Sean McCarthy, Brittany Russell. That's not like that's unprecedented. They decided not to do that. Okay. The Kentucky Derby doesn't matter any less to me because one person or one trainer or one set of owners is not involved. As always, it's a shades of gray thing. There's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of complexity. And a lot of times I feel like we try to make very complex, very complicated things very simple. And it's not. And because we live in an environment where if you can't say it in under 280 characters, you may as well not say it at all. That's the sort of thing we get. But you're right in that it is indeed an incredibly complex situation. There's a lot that's going on. And if you think it's solely the blame of one side or the other, you're probably misguided in some way, shape, or form. So that's pretty much all there is to it.
Yeah, and I guess the point I was trying to get to was there's a very unintended consequence to all this, and that's there's a really kind of weird sense of intrigue already for the Preakness and for the Belmont because Bob's not running these horses in the Derby. And last week we saw a horse, I believe Nisos, run a hole in the wind, and everybody is just like, we can't wait to watch this horse run again. And it's going to be interesting with that horse not eligible to run in the Derby, whether they run him in the Preakness or the Belmont. And I think so often we get that drop off after the Derby, where all right, we get 20 horses for the Derby, and it's like, can we even get 8 for the Preakness? Well, we got a whole stable worth of horses that aren't running the Derby, and they're going to be running these 2 races, and these are going to be highly regarded horses. So I know, it's not the quote unquote traditional plan for a 3-year-old horse to skip the Derby, but I think by having this happen, there's a sense of a little sense of excitement, and it's funny because I think before Saturday, a lot of people were just like, yeah, whatever, it's not going to be a big deal. There was the whole asterisk talk and all this other stuff, and just ridiculous things, right? Because I mean, big horses spike fevers before the Derby, and get scratched all the time. We have an AE come in and get in off of a bunch of scratches and win the Derby one year. Like, stuff happens, right? So you can't just like all of a sudden decide, hey, no, this isn't going to count. But then we saw what that horse did, and I think it just got people excited, whether or not it was in, I think, like we said, some people were excited for reasons like boo-hoo to Churchill Downs. They're not going to get to see this horse run in the Derby, to, hey, I can't wait to see this horse run again. So, yeah, I think like you said, or like I said, complex situation, but I think it's got this unintended consequence that's already got people talking about the Preakness and the Belmont, or sorry, the Saratoga Stakes, and yeah, I think it's just going to be an interesting Triple Crown this year because of it.
Can I float one thing before we play the outro and get out of here?
Yep.
Wouldn't the best way for Team Baffert to stick it to Churchill be to run Nisos with a different trainer in the Pat Day Mile?
That's pretty funny.
Wins by the length of the stretch, runs the mile in like 1:32, and all of a sudden people are wondering, wait, why wasn't this horse in the Derby?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because there's going to be a lot of we'll see if any of these West Coast horses get in now, because there's going to be a lot of points that a lot of people aren't going to get, and they're going to have to maybe change plans at this point.
And the other thing too is, with less points being awarded in these races, you're going to see horses that break their maidens in January and February have legitimate chances at Kentucky Derby berths now. They always had somewhat of a chance. Last year, Mage did not run as a 2-year-old. He wound up winning the Kentucky Derby, of course. But there's a couple of very nice maiden breakers that could very well be players on the road to the Kentucky Derby. In particular, there's a horse at Fairgrounds by the name of Hall of Fame who won a maiden race on Lecomte Day by a city block. And that horse has the potential to be a very, very good one. That's one to put on your Derby watch list if he's not already there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. Cool. Well, I think that's going to do it for us. Obviously, you can check us out at wrong_lead.com, or on the wronglead.com, at wrong_lead on Twitter.
There we go.
Andrew at Andrew Champagne. I am at Cherry Drank. Obviously, Andrew will be sharing all of his fun stuff that he's been doing work with. You had Rolf the dog come after you posting the dog park.
I have absolutely no idea who that is, but he thinks a courthouse is his playground, and that can't be good.
Hey, maybe he's just a hound dog.
Crying all the time.
See you later.